Shabbat Shalom, Israel. Today I want to talk about the tithing system, and I want to kind of break into it by taking us away from the Christianized perspective of tithing in church and take it back to more of a Hebraic perspective of tithing. Because when you look at tithing, you look at the system of tithing in the church, you're seeing everyone. There's a spirit of mandating a 10% from your income uh, to give to a church. There's a spirit of there's like an unspoken understanding that you're there's something you're not doing right with your money, right? If you're not giving 10% of it to a church or a pastor by mandate. But for years I've questioned that. I've questioned that whole thing of mandating tithes, especially when Second Corinthians 9 says, give according to your heart and not grudgingly or of necessity. But yet we're mandated to separate a 10% of our income. And that doesn't include offering. So I wanted to kind of dig into that a little bit and just spend a short time, a couple of minutes, unraveling uh, the Christianized view of tithing and the true Hebraic view of tithing, because I think it's important and I think it'll set a lot of people free from thinking that we have to we have to return a 10% to a church that's really not giving back or helping its members. I've heard of people needing help when they go to those same churches where they've been returning tithe for 10, 15 years. The church says that they can do little for them. So this is not what it was about. This is never what tithing was about, first of all. And I want to say this. I want to say this. First of all, I don't have anything against supporting a ministry. I don't have anything against giving an offering to support a ministry. I think we should. We are not to come empty-handed before Yah. So I totally believe in supporting a ministry. But I'm here to pull the curtains back on the whole idea that in the church, tithes are mandated, and that if you don't, you rob the Most High Yah. What did Malachi mean? Malachi 3:8 mean when it says, you have robbed me? And you say, in what way have you robbed me? Within tithe and offering. Well, we're going to get into all of that. Okay? So, but first, before we go there, I want to go to Genesis chapter 14. Genesis chapter 14, I believe, is one of the first records of tithe being returned. Okay? So why don't we go there real quick? Genesis chapter 14, verse 14. And it reads, and it's 14 through 20, and it reads, when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his 318 trained servants who were born in his own house and went in pursuit as far as Dan. He and his servants divided against them by night and smote them and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is on the left of Damascus. He brought back all the goods and also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as the women and the people. And after his return from the defeat of Gedaliamer and the kings who were with him, the king of Sodom came out to meet him in the valley of Shawah, that is, the king's valley. And Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. Now he was the priest of the Most High Elohim. And he blessed him and said, Barak, that means to bless, be Abraham. Blessed be Abraham of the Most High, possessor of the heaven and the earth. And blessed be the Most High Elohim, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him a tenth of all. So here you have Abraham giving the priest Melchizedek a tenth. Okay. Um, I want to point out by saying tithe was never money. It was never dollars and coins the way we see it today, the way it's been done in churches for years now. It was not originally that. Tithe was what you grew. It was your fruits. It was your produce. It was your cattle, your stock. It was bread, wine, oil. This was tithe, right? So we see Abraham gave Melchizedek, who was a priest of, who was not only a priest of the Most High Elohim Yah, but also a king of Salem, and that's a whole nother conversation. But it's Genesis 14, right? So if we go to Numbers goes a little bit deeper. Numbers peels back a little bit more onion skin, so to speak. Right? Numbers chapter 1, and that's verse 47. Numbers chapter 1, verse 47. But the Levites were not registered among them by their father's side. I'm sorry, tribe, because Yahweh had spoken to Moshe, saying, only the tribe of Levi you do not register to take a census of them among the children of Israel. Instead, appoint the Levites over the temple of the witnesses, over all its furnishings, and over all that belongs to it. They bear the temple and all its furnishings, and they attend to it, and camp around the temple. Keep in mind, here's the story with the Levites, and what does that have to do with the tithing system? That's what we're going to get to. The Levites did not have a land inheritance the way the rest of us did. The other 11 tribes did. They had lost their land inheritance at the bottom of Mount Sinai when Moshe had gone up to speak to the Most High Yah. And he took a while. Most of us know that story. He took a while. Israel was at the bottom of the mountain. When they lost faith, lost hope, they began to revert back to their old ways. They began to revert back to uh, the Egyptian ways that they had just come out of. So they began to make gods of gold again because they began to put their faith in that. And it was Aaron and his sons that led that apostasy at the bottom of Mount Sinai. Levi was affected, but the whole tribe of Levi was affected by that. Okay? It was then, because of that, that they lost their land inheritance. So, this is the reason why they were not to be counted. Right? They didn't have a land inheritance along with the rest of their brothers. Okay? And that's Numbers. We're going to see why that's so important in a minute. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 10. Chapter 10, verse 9. And it repeats again, therefore Levi has no portion nor inheritance with his brothers. Yahweh is his inheritance, as Yahweh your Elohim promised him. So what does that mean? So now we're seeing a picture, and so as we go through every script, we're painting a picture of the Levites' situation. They didn't have a land inheritance, but they had a job. The job of the Levites were to attend the temple. You had the sacrifice being administered by Aaron and his sons. You had other people in the tribe whose job it was to clean the temple from all the blood that was being sacrificed. It was their daily job to clean. You have others who it was their job to furnish the temple and get it ready for the next service. So you had all these different functions within the temple, and that was what the tribe of Levi, that was their function. Because they didn't have a land inheritance, so they needed something to do. So that was now their function. All right? Let's go to Numbers chapter 18. Numbers chapter 18 peels off a little bit more, right? we see now what the job of the Levites were, and we see why they needed that job, that function, because they lost their land inheritance, right? So Numbers chapter 18, verse 21. And behold, I've given the children of Levi all the tithes in Israel as an inheritance in return for the service. Okay, so now we're peeling off layers. Okay, behold, I've given the children of Levi all the tithes in Israel as an inheritance in return for the service with which they are serving, the service of the tent of appointment. Okay, the tithes of the children. I'm skipping down. Well, actually, we can go through the next few verses. And let the children of Israel no more come near the tent of appointment, lest they bear sin and die, because the Levites shall do the service of the tent of appointment, so they themselves bear their wickedness. This is a law forever throughout your generations, that among the children of Israel they have no inheritance. Inheritance meaning land. But the tithes of the children of Israel, which they present as a contribution to Yahweh, I have given to the Levites as an inheritance. That is why I have said to them, among the children of Israel, they have no inheritance. So because the children of Israel, the children of Levi specifically lost their land inheritance, because they lost their land inheritance, they needed to be taken care of. They couldn't grow crops because they didn't have any land inheritance to grow crops. Okay, they couldn't keep livestock because they didn't have any land on which to feed stock. Okay, so they needed some sort of sustenance, something to support themselves. So they were given the job of administering in the temple. Okay, and in return, the other 11 tribes would each take a tenth of whatever their increase was and give it to the tribe of Levi. Okay. This is how the system worked. Okay? And I want to read 26. And speak to the Levites and say to them, when you take from the children of Israel the tithes which I have given you from them as your inheritance, then you shall present a contribution of that to Yahweh, a tenth of the tithe. So whatever the Levites collected from the other 11 tribes, they were to take a tenth of that and sacrifice it to Yahweh. And so there everyone was honored accordingly. So you see, this was the point of tithe. The tithing system was to take care of the Levite tribe who had lost their land inheritance, and the tribe of Levi being in the office of a priest, more specifically the sons of Aaron, were to honor Yah with a tenth of the increase that they received. Okay, so we see here this is what tithe was for. Had the Levites not led Israel in apostasy at the bottom of Mount Sinai, there likely would have never been a tithing system. Okay, tithing system was set in place for this purpose, and so let's go to good old Malachi. Now, I don't know if how other churches administer this service, but when tithing, when I was part of the church, the one scripture that was always read was, "Bring ye all the tithe into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house." Okay, well, let's break that down, because even with that, okay, I want to go. Let me say this. Let me say this first of all. We have to notice one thing. A lot of churches have the mantra that, hey, these are Old Testament things. There's certain things we don't do anymore because Christ died and now all things are done away with, and now it's about Christ. We're no longer in the law. Well, I want to point out that Malachi is part of the Old Testament, but yet churches still collect tithe. Churches are still collecting a tithe, which was an Old Testament custom. Okay? Again, this mandate this system where we're mandated, as opposed to a free will offering the way it should be. I just want to point that out. Okay, it's contrary. But in any case, Malachi chapter 3, I want to start from verse 6, just to get a full picture. For I am Yahweh, I shall not change, and you, O sons of Jacob, shall not come to an end, for the days of your fathers. See, he's talking to Israel. He's speaking to Israel. He's not speaking to any church, okay? He's speaking to Israel. From the days of your fathers, you have turned aside from my laws and did not keep them. And you turn back to me, and I'll turn back to you, says Yahweh of hosts. But you said, in what way shall we turn back? Here's the response. Would a man rob Elohim? Yet you have robbed me, and you said, in what way have we robbed you? In tithe and an offering. You've cursed me with a curse, for you are robbing me, this nation, all of it. And he said, this nation, not this church, right? What nation? This was Israel, okay? So he said, bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, verse 10, and let there be food in my house, and prove me in this, Yahweh of hosts, said Yahweh of hosts, whether or not I open the windows of the heavens for you, and shall pour you out a boundless baraka. That means to say blessing. Now, keep in mind something. We're talking about food. When Israel returned a tithe of all their stuff, of all their increase, there was food in the temple. And the whole point of tithe was for the nation, including the tribe of Levi, to enjoy the increase. You were to sit in the temple amongst your brethren and enjoy the bread, enjoy the wine, enjoy the meat, enjoy the harvest, the increase. The Levites then sacrificed a tenth of whatever they got to Yahweh, but everybody was to partake. So that way everybody had. So this was the whole thing this was the whole purpose for tithing. This was the whole purpose for everybody returning a tenth of their increase. That's what tithing means, by the way. It means a tenth of. So that was the whole purpose for everybody returning a tithe. It was never for a Christian pastor to demand tithe from you to get rich off. You have people who are in the church age right now, who are in the church, who can barely pay bills. However, they feel obligated to give this tenth of their income. And for what? 2 Corinthians says to give according to your heart and not begrudgingly. All right? So how can you not give begrudgingly when you know you have bills coming up that you can hardly pay, but yet you're giving away some money to the pastor? So this is what the whole system of tithe was made for. This was what the whole system of tithe was about. Everybody was supposed to be taken care of. Everybody was supposed to be fed. This was the point of it, okay? And this is why Malachi 3 says, bring ye all the tithe, that there may be food in my house. Right? It was an agrarian society back then, and it was important. Agriculture was very important. So we can't take the original meaning of tithe and flip it into something else that fits us today, because that's not what it was originally intended for. And if we're still going to mandate the tenth, we have to find someone from the Levite tribe. And I challenge any of us to find anyone who is from the Levite tribe, okay, to identify which of us are from the Levite tribe, because that would be the appropriate the appropriate thing. But that is that was what it was for. Okay, so I wanted to point out those few scripts, and I really hope I didn't take up too much time. Doesn't look like I did, but anyway, I wanted to point those out, and I was able to list them down here at the bottom. So I may revisit this topic again in the future as I uncover more, but I wanted to at least start out by peeling off some layers. So we'll return again. I hope everybody has uh, a peaceful and shalom Shabbat, and we'll talk again.